Well, in astronomy, I think international collaboration is key. Astronomy is driven by the technology, by the large facilities, the biggest telescopes that we have on Earth. And we have already long passed the time when every university had its own little telescope. We now work together, and especially in Europe, the various countries have come together to have one common observatory, in the European case, the ESO, the European Southern Observatory, where together we build and operate these large telescopes and also build the instruments on it, and then of course do the science visits together. So I think astronomy has both, of course, a national component, but it also has very much an international component. We work together on almost all of the big projects. Well, I think there are lots of opportunities, both at an individual level as a, say, principal investigator of a project that you do together with your colleagues in other countries. And then again, you bring your expertise together. One of your colleagues can be an expert on the observing, but you are an expert on the theory, and in that way you work together on a bigger project. So you try to make sure that the sum of what you're doing together is more than what each of you could do individually. And there are so many opportunities now in both large observing programs on the biggest telescopes. You typically do them in teams that have 20, 30, 40 people coming from, 3, 4, 5 institutions worldwide. And that is a very good way of working together also for the young people, for the PhD students and the postdocs that are in the program. They learn how to work, with their colleagues in other countries, and they learn a lot from each other.
How do you see AI and machine learning reshaping this sort of research in the coming decade?
Yeah, so I think what is really special about Westlake is that it is small, and I think it's very key to its success that it stays relatively small. I'm an interdisciplinary scientist myself. I did actually my studies in chemistry and moved only later into astronomy. And I found that whenever I am at a relatively small place, that it is much easier to cross these boundaries to chemistry, to physics, to instrument builders. As you said, we also need the largest facilities. And maybe in the near future also much more with mathematics and informatics in terms of the AI and machine learning. To what degree and what role that is going to play, I may not be the right person to ask or to answer, because I'm still looking at it a little bit critically from the side. It has potential, but I think that potential still needs to be developed.
But in an age of high-resolution images and internet participation and all this sort of stuff, how do we make these kinds of public in-person lectures still feel essential? Is there a human element that technology cannot replace?
Absolutely, absolutely. First, we are very fortunate in astronomy that we have these beautiful images that capture the imagination of the general public. Because after all, it's to a large degree also the general public that is financing our research, and that allows us to do what we love to do, namely to do our research in astronomy. But we have to communicate that with the general public. And I think the one thing that you cannot replace very well on the internet is the in-person passion that you can bring in an audience, and that you can really help the direct, looking into the eye, the one-on-one interaction, the body language. That is something that still is, at least that's what we notice in practice, is still attracting large crowds to any of these public lectures. I think one piece of advice that I always give to students is, do something that you really like. Follow your heart, follow your passion. Make sure that you're excited about what you're doing. Then also make sure that you are good in at least one thing. So you don't need to be a star in everything. You don't need to have the very highest grades to to succeed, but try to be creative in one aspect, or try to have be an expert in, you know, maybe a piece of technology or software or something that gets you noticed. I think that will make you a successful student and postdoc then in research. And, you know, every person has its own talents, and it's also part of the mentoring that can take place in a small university like Westlake, where you have a lot of direct interactions with your supervisor that can nurture that talent, that can bring out, you know, what makes you tick, and develop that further. And that can be different for a female student than for maybe a male student. And that's also important to recognize, that not every student is the same, and that, you know, each of them may need to be approached in a slightly different way. And we are fortunate in astronomy to have a quite large cohort of female PhD students and postdocs. When I last looked at the statistics, when I was president of the International Astronomical Union for China, was sort of at the level of 35%, 40% in terms of PhD students and postdocs. Faculty certainly well above 20%, close to 30%. So I think this is an area in the hard sciences, which is really attractive to female researchers as well.
Looking ahead 20, 30 years, a generation basically, what do you hope will be humanity's most significant milestone in space?
One of the biggest questions that we are trying to answer in astronomy is, of course, what is our place in the universe? And directly related to that question is, are we alone? And so that is one of the biggest questions that is out there, and we may actually be the first generation of humanity that has the technology available to answer that question. You know, we're able to detect planets around other stars. We are able now to measure the composition of their atmospheres, and so the next step is obviously to search for signs of life in the atmospheres of these planets, not just whether they can be habitable, but whether life has already originated there. Whether that's going to be 20 or 30 years, I don't know. It could be more. I'm more on the conservative side. Some of my colleagues say definitely it will happen in the next 20 years. I'm more on the 50-year horizon. But that will be certainly one of the biggest questions that humanity can address.
Is this your first time at Westlake University?
Yes, this is my first time to Westlake.
What are your impressions? What are your thoughts on our university?
Right, so I've only spent, this is my second day here at Westlake, but I must say I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm really impressed by the campus. I love beautiful buildings. I love also the landscaping. I'm as a Dutch person, I love gardens. I love flowers, and so having light and having lots of green and having beautiful, interesting buildings, including also the spaceship, is what makes it attractive also for people to come here. I've also talked to some of my colleagues from outside China who are now living in Hangzhou, and they really like it as a city, much more than some of the other big cities in China. So I think it's a very attractive place to come to. I would say that you are very lucky to be here at Westlake University, and I think it's a very special place. And I think it's really then also becomes the responsibility of all of you here at Westlake to bring it into the next decade and to help to make it grow and reach the full potential that it certainly has.